At the end of the school year, the servants, whether we're studying or whether we're teaching or doing some other kind of ministry, we immediately jump in all of our summer missions. And so brothers go all over the country and all over the world doing all sorts of missionary activity. And a lot of times we don't see each other throughout the summer. We just hear that we're on these different adventures, wondering what we're all doing. That is until July 30th, when we all fly home on the eve of St. Ignatius's feast day and begin our week-long vacation together. 2 years ago, we came back and we actually drove north and went to Yellowstone and Grand Teton National Parks. And we had a week-long vacation together. A week straight of Sabbaths and of joy and of resting and telling stories and fun with our brothers. And I have so many stories of this. I have stories of the buffalo that almost attacked our vehicle, or of seeing wolves wrestling in the mud that we were all jumping out of the vehicle to watch, or going on hikes in these beautiful mountains in the Tetons and getting way closer to the bears than what we actually should have gotten, but still being okay. The beauty of canoeing and kayaking under the Tetons was astounding. And my favorite, just sitting around the campfire with brothers at night, reminiscing all these amazing stories and glories of the summer and everything good that God had done, both in our own hearts, but also through us. But then I have one final memory. I remember driving back into Denver as the sun's setting over the beautiful mountains, and my heart's dropping as I'm realizing it's the last Sabbath. As the sun goes down and evening comes, I know I wake up the next morning and I report back to my first day of school. The end of vacation, end of Sabbath. And I get this every week during the Sabbath as the sun's going down. There's this sadness in my heart as I know it's the eve of another day of work, another long week of labors. And what I want to posit today is that maybe this isn't just out of laziness. Maybe this is actually a God-given response, and this is actually theologically accurate. Let me explain. At the end of the first creation story, it says that on the seventh day, God finished the work which he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all the work which he had done. So God blessed the seventh day and hallowed it, because on it he rested from all his work which he had done in creation. There's two immediate things that stand out in this. First of all, God hallowed the seventh day. He sanctified it. He made it holy. He set it apart from every other day in the week and said, this day is special. This day is different. But we hear twice in this story that God rested on the seventh day. The Hebrew word Sabbath simply means to rest. And that's what it means to Sabbath, to rest with God. Not just to make Sunday a special day to watch football, or just a special day to go to Mass for an hour and then make it like every other day of the week, but that it would be set apart, that it would look different than every other day of the week, that we could rest with God. The way John Paul II described this is on the seventh day, God did not look out to new accomplishments, but he enjoyed the beauty of what had already been created. What's amazing about this is God doesn't just tell us this, God invites us into this with him. And he actually commands us into it with him. The third of the 10 commandments, God says, remember the Sabbath. Now, when we heard the word remember, it doesn't just mean to think about the Sabbath. It doesn't just mean to think that this day is different. The word remember involves action in the Bible. The Hebrew word zakar means make an act of covenant faithfulness. So when God remembers Noah, he is acting on his covenant. The floods are subsiding. When God remembers Rachel, who was barren, he gives her a child named Joseph. So when God tells us to remember the Sabbath, it's not just to think this day is different, it is to live this day different than every other day. When we remember the Sabbath, when we keep holy the Sabbath, we rest with God. And when I bring this up to people, the first excuse I often hear is, brother, that's asking a lot of us. And I say, no. God is offering a lot to us. Whenever I picked up a spiritual director in college, he gave me a couple guidelines he wanted me to follow before him and I started spiritual direction. And he said, if you want me to be your spiritual director, I want you to go to daily Mass. I want you to pray a daily holy hour because you're discerning religious life. I want you to do some sort of penance, and I want you to have a weekly Sabbath on Sunday. I'd never really heard of this before. I said, Father, what do you mean by that? And he said, you're not to work on Sundays. You're to rest with God. You're to relax. You're to hang out, to have fun. And I said, Father, I don't know if I can do that. And he said, then find another spiritual director. So I started taking a Sabbath. And what I found is every week I would look forward to Sunday, where I could sleep in, where I could get rest. I could go to a park and get introverted time reading a book I enjoyed, or I could hang out with friends and watch movies or football or go on adventures with them that I would remember. And not only that, but I got more work done during the week than I had ever gotten done previously because I was rested. I was ready for another week. I was invigorated by this one day that I took off. But might I suggest that more than just getting more work done or getting our rest that we need, there's a deeper significance to the Sabbath. If you remember, God created man on the sixth day, which means the very first day we were created, the very first thing man had ever done was to rest with God, which is a sign of the very last thing man is to do forever. This is painful for a very hardworking German to admit, but we are not made to labor. We are made to rest for all eternity. See, God wanted to make clear from the beginning, we are not robots. We are not slaves meant to work on some estate called the earth that God had created. The way St. Augustine puts it is that when all of our works are done, there will only be praise and love and seeing God without end. This will be the Sabbath, which will have no evening. Each Sabbath is an image of heaven, an image of everything we're created for, our eternal destiny, where we rest in God and God rests in us, not looking forward to new accomplishments, but simply enjoying and appreciating everything that's already been done. So it's a good, healthy sign when we're sad that the Sabbath is over. It means that we're yearning for our eternal destiny. I want to give one more note with this. Because I know I have a Sabbath every week, I can give all of myself. I can spend myself and I can be spent because I know there's a Sabbath that awaits me where I can rest. In the middle of one particularly busy semester, I remember praying an exam one night and God simply tells me, brother, you can give all of yourself this semester. You can give more. I said, God, I don't know if I can give more. He said, you can spend yourself, you can be spent in this life because you have an eternal Sabbath that awaits you. Hold nothing back. As St. Paul says, all of our temporary afflictions, our temporary labors are nothing compared to the glory that awaits us for all of eternity. And so let us give ourselves to God in labor, but let us also give ourselves to God in rest on the Sabbath. And may we anticipate every Sabbath, the eternal Sabbath, where there will be no evening, no sun setting down over the mountains, no end to the vacation or to the Sabbath, but simply an opening to an eternal Sabbath, where we shall see God and praise God and love God without end.